Hey, Eric here. If you've been paying attention, you probably know that the past three videos documented the first 3 days of a cross-country drive I undertook earlier this year. This video is day 4, during which I passed the rest of the way through Oklahoma, all the way through the Texas Panhandle, and halfway through New Mexico. Kind of just a coincidence, but my reading material around this time happened to be The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. This tale is about an Oklahoma family during the Dust Bowl years who fled west to California in search of a better life. I was really excited when I found out that my path through Oklahoma to California very closely parallels the path taken by the family in the book. Like the Joads, I too was moving with all my worldly possessions in the back of the truck. I tried to imagine what it would have been like back then, with the roads, services, and even the automobiles being much more primitive. That must have been an epic, life-changing odyssey for the people who undertook it back then. I was on my own odyssey, no less significant to me personally, and I still had a long way to go. I made the same mistake I did the previous night. I chose a hotel east of the city. With the horrific Nashville traffic still in mind, I resolved to set out really early in hopes that I might beat the worst of the Oklahoma City traffic. Before we dive into the adventure, if you enjoy today's video, please click the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already done so. Now, let's wander. Day 4, Henryetta, Oklahoma to Moriarty, New Mexico. I left Henryetta when it was still dark outside. There it is out there on the horizon, Oklahoma City. OKC had one of the most impressive skylines I saw on this trip. There was also some other interesting architecture there. I stopped for breakfast at, you guessed it, Waffle House in the town of Yukon, which proudly proclaims itself to be the childhood home of superstar singer Garth Brooks. The town of El Reno is known to me because of the devastating tornado that happened here in 2013. The Chisholm Trail crosses here. That's a famous cattle drive route from Old West times. You can see why it's a good place to drive cattle. This part of the country is flat as a pancake and largely featureless. Even though it's not very exciting to look at, there's a sense of majesty in this open country. It makes an individual feel pretty small. The Battle of Washita took place near here. This chapter of the American Indian Wars was a bad day for the Cheyenne, who suffered grievously under a United States Army led by none other than General George Custer. Goodbye, Oklahoma. Hello, Texas.
Welcome to Texas.
I nearly moved to Texas a few years ago, and I wouldn't rule out doing so someday. The state has always fascinated me and has a lot of redeeming qualities. I've been to Texas a few times, but never to this Panhandle region at the very top of the state. I'm interested to see what it's like. I've been learning about the Dust Bowl recently. During the 1930s, this part of the country experienced drought, crop failures, and terrible dust storms. The epicenter of the Dust Bowl was a bit north of here in the Oklahoma Panhandle, but we're not far from there, and this place felt it too. That crisis caused many people to do what I'm doing now: pack up all their things and move west. My personal journey isn't under much better circumstances. I feel the ghosts of those refugees riding along with me. Due to an unfortunate oversight, I failed to get any footage of Amarillo, Texas, but don't worry, you didn't miss much. West of Amarillo, the plains were starting to fracture into plateaus and canyons, and beginning to feel less like the Midwest and more like the Southwest. And just like that, here we are in New Mexico. I've been through New Mexico a couple times, but it's been many years. Let's see what the Land of Enchantment has in store for us. The terrain is beginning to have a little more personality around here, hills and valleys and not just flat ground anymore. Out there in the distance is something I haven't seen since New Hampshire. Snow-capped peaks. The southern reaches of the Rocky Mountains. And just east of these mountains was my stopping point for the night, Moriarty, New Mexico. 4 days on the road, and I was beginning to get the hang of it. I've always had unreliable vehicles in my life prior to this, and there was always the nagging fear that I was going to have some sort of a breakdown along the way. I had 2 breakdowns along the way when I originally moved east. But so far, the Wander wagon was proving to be up to the task. The people who ran the hotel I stayed at were fussy about pets. I had my 2 cats with me. They let me stay on the promise that I'd keep my cats in the carrier the entire time. Yeah, right. Who does that? This hotel was supposed to be pet friendly. It would have been a form of torture to keep those cats in their carrier all night after they were stuck in it all day in the car and were going to be stuck in it again all day the next day in the car. I was not going to do that. I hope that these fussy hotel owners were not a sign of things to come as I moved further west. The next day, my plan was to finish off New Mexico, go all the way through Arizona, and cross over the border into California and stop for the night in a town called Needles. Spoiler alert, that's not exactly how it worked out. Tune in next week to see what happened. Thanks for watching.